sweet burning Cool+Double crazy Batch+Intangible cultural heritage Inheritance+National righteousness, Wanlan's body was pierced through, and the traveler turned her life into a chaotic mess before leaving. She finally regained control of her body, but was trapped in the same day for 999 years in an infinite cycle. No matter what she does, everything will start over and she will be forced into a madman who controls countless skills. On the day she broke free from the cycle and faced the aftermath, everyone laughed at her for being powerless until her past and present lives were unintentionally exposed. Night-turning Lan leaped down from a height of 10 zhang with lightness skills, unscathed, someone explained. She hung Weiya a song called, Breaking the Formation Music, by Wanlan, with death but no injury. Some people argue that it's all post-production special effects. The night turns the waves and reproduces the Tai divine needle, with miraculous hands returning to spring someone is concealing. A pre-written script afterwards, the lost century-old martial arts secrets, Keisai techniques, and traditional Chinese opera literature and art reappeared in the world. The big shots who crazily make excuses for her. Can we converge a bit? They can't make it up anymore. Wanlan suddenly realized that she could hear the conversation of antiques and inadvertently mastered the gossip of ancient, modern, and foreign cultures. Absolutely no one knows, the apocalypse ceremony is buried under the Phoenix Yuanbao Pagoda. The next day, the heavenly apocalypse ceremony of Chinese classics was released. I am Ning Taizu's sword, I cannot say where Taizu's treasure is. The next day, international news reported that the treasure of Ning Taizu had been discovered. Later on, I finally realized that something was wrong with the antiques. Wanlan reached out her hand and said, I'll take you home. My precious treasure in the world will ultimately belong to China in the new era. She is the only torch. He gambled his life on a prosperous world with her keywords of the novel. I expose my past life, causing a shocking explosion on the entire internet without pop-ups. I expose my past life, causing a shocking explosion on the entire internet. Download the complete set of TXT. I expose my past life, causing a shocking explosion on the entire internet. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Time Cycle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Time Cycle. The sky and earth are blue, with sparse stars and scattered clouds. Wanlan couldn't control her body because she was occupied by a foreign soul. There were countless noisy sounds in her ears, and she had her right finger bone twisted and thrown into the lake. She woke up half an hour later. Miss Yi, you're awake. Standing by the bedside was Zhou Hechen's secretary, who smiled formulaically. Your hand has been broken, but Mr. doesn't allow you to receive treatment before admitting your mistake. You need to understand his hard work. Wanlan's expression was indifferent, and she slowly shook her left hand. After so long, the foreign soul finally left, and she regained control of her body. Your expression is wrong again. Please always remember to exert force on both sides of your mouth and show a smile. The secretary said again, when you smile, you will look more like Miss Uni and also win the favor of the teacher. There's one more thing, you need to position yourself properly. Sir doesn't like people who are persistent and shameless. You. Click. Wanlan fixed her finger bones. The secretary's words came to a sudden halt. He looked at the girl in disbelief, only to see her grab a coat and drape it over her shoulder, getting up and going downstairs. After being stunned for a second, the secretary quickly caught up and sighed, Miss Yi, although you look like Miss Uni, you are never her. You have no privileges here, sir. If you continue to make trouble, it will not benefit you. Aren't you suffering enough? Zhou Hechen could run from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere to celebrate Sheng Yuni's birthday and give up the negotiation meeting, but Wanlan did not have the qualification. Today's night was a bit unusual, but the secretary didn't think much. He respectfully greeted the person who walked in at the villa door and said, Mr. Qin, you're here. Qin Xian was the youngest son of Zhou Hechen. He lifted his chin and said, what's wrong with her? The secretary looked pitifully and said, Miss Yi is getting angry and running away from home. He has become accustomed to this method. 2 years ago, after following Zhou Hechen's side, Yi Wanlan kept suppressing herself and doing small things. Occasionally, her self-esteem rose and she took the initiative to leave, but as long as Zhou Hechen said a word, she would still willingly return without dignity. Qin Xian bit his cigarette and casually smiled, "Are you having a bad temper?" The whole Jiangqing knows that Yi Wanlan is just a substitute for Shenxiao. Originally, she could continue to accompany Zhou Hechen as a substitute, but a month ago, the main character Shenxiao returned from studying abroad, and Yi Wanlan, as a substitute, immediately lost her value. However, she did not give up and continued to entangle. But Yi Wanlan shouldn't have hit Shenxiao, causing her right hand to almost break. Shenxiao is a top student and painter in their circle, and both men and women follow her as a role model. She is the white moonlight of everyone. Qin Xian is no exception. Naturally it is impossible to let the culprit stay overnight to turn the tide. At 0 today, several of their brothers and sisters, in the name of Zhou Hezhen, invited Yi to pull Lan out, broke her finger, pushed her into the water and avenged Shenxiao. Water droplets continued to drip down the girl's hair, and the evening wind suddenly blew through her hair, causing her hair to become tangled. After the hazy mist dissipated, her beautiful eyebrows and eyes appeared, with a magnificent and elegant appearance. Her beautiful eyebrows and eyes were tinged with a hint of icy coldness, like thorns and roses swaying in the cold wind. The cold fragrance mixed with killing blood made her heart tremble. Her gaze swept lightly, as if the beauty that had been sealed in dust for a long time had awakened, shaking the world. The leaves fell silently, a moment of silence. Qin Xian paused for a moment and didn't know what words to use to describe such a face. How could he think that a double is even more beautiful than the main character? Absurdity. Qin Xian was restless and saw the girl stop and turn towards him. He raised his eyebrows with an unclear smile and said, "Why, I came up with an apology after thinking about it. I wouldn't." Click. The sound of bones breaking was very clear in the quiet late night. Yi Wanlan's tone was flat. Why did it break? Before Qin Xian could react, his right hand was also caught and there was another cracking sound. This one is also broken. The pain that connected his fingers to his heart made Qin Xian's legs weak. He knelt on the ground, his body constantly trembling, and the pain was so intense that he couldn't even scream. He turned pale and couldn't believe it. Yi Wanlan stepped on his ankle again, and after 2 crisp sounds, she smiled and said, "Why is it all broken?" The more intense pain surged like a wave, and Qin Xian couldn't bear it. His eyes darkened and he passed out. The girl strode away, her back like a knife. The secretary was also stunned. After a while, he shook his fingers and contacted Zhou Hechen, saying, "Sir, something happened." Outside the villa, the smile on Yi Wanlan's lips faded away. She has a secret that her body was worn when she was 14 years old. Over the past 4 years, Yi Wanlan watched as the time-traveling woman turned her peaceful life into a murky mess. The time-traveling woman wanted to become a model, so she gave up her studies and went on a runway show. Time-traveling woman likes Zhou Hechen and signs a double agreement. The time-traveling woman looked down upon her uncle's family, causing her to betray and be unable to return home. Finally, the time-traveling woman didn't want to play and left lightly to find a new life, finally regaining control of her body. Before she could clean up the mess, she was trapped in time again on the same day, with infinite cycles of reincarnation. No matter what she does, she cannot come to the next day. She doesn't have to consider any consequences when doing things, but she also can't establish connections with others. Because after 0, everything will reset except her memory. She will return to 0 on May 18th and repeat the same beginning. She has been repeating this day for a whole of 999 years. From initial irritability to calmness and then to indifference, Wanlan finally got used to it and began to use her infinite rebirth to enrich herself. She has traveled to every corner of Jiangqing and surrounding cities, remembering every moment of events and becoming proficient in countless skills and 100 languages. 90 years ago, she began learning about cultural relic restoration and Kunqu opera cultivation to suppress killing, but life remained dull and endless. Wanlan put on her helmet, rode on her motorcycle and swept away, carrying out her day's plan. Practicing calligraphy, martial arts, painting, singing opera. The last song ends, and the sky is already dark. With a loud rumble, dark clouds gather, thunder seems to split open the sky, lightning and neon lights interweave into the sea, and rain and mist devour the night. It's a bit cold. Wanlan gathered up her coat and booked a hotel for the night. After swiping her card to open the door, she paused in her footsteps. The window opened wide, the strong wind surged in, and there was already an unwelcome guest in the room. That is a man. He leaned against the bed, facing her on his side, with a perfect figure and sleek lines, just his back showcasing strength and beauty. A few strands of wet sideburns were pressed against the sides of the cheeks, and the veins on the slender and powerful forearms were exposed, clearly enduring great torment. "This seems to be my room," Wanlan said as she withdrew and looked at the sign. The man pursed his lips tightly and said hoarsely, "Go out." Wanlan walked in and closed the door. A lost stranger is very interesting to her dull life, and she cherishes such time very much. After all, she has already deposed Qin Xian more than 300,000 times, and every bone of him has been shattered by her, leaving no freshness. Wanlan approached calmly, bent over and pinched the man's chin, lifting his head. It is a stunning face that can be described as reversing all sentient beings. The moonlight dyed his eyebrows and eyes silver white, and he frowned tightly, his eyes blurred, with a sense of fragmentation and dangerous beauty. Night turns the waves and raises the eyebrows slightly. She has seen many people in Jiangqing, but she has never seen this man before. Bang! The man suddenly moved. His eyes were still unclear, but his attacks were swift and deadly. Wanlan remained motionless and made a counterattack at the same time, taking every move with ease. Bang! Ding-ling-ling. The phone rang abruptly, and Wanlan cleared one hand to press the answer button. The call started, and Zhouhechen's cold voice came in. "Night turns the tide, playing hard to get is of no use to me. Roll over to the hospital in 10 minutes. Wanlan didn't respond, her attention was focused on the man who accidentally broke into her room. He seemed to have exhausted his strength, stopped, and looked at her with wet eyes. The man's pupils are dilated and his mind is confused. Wanlan's hand had already caught his throat, imprisoning him in bed, unable to move. The man's eyelashes twitched slightly, his face pale like cold porcelain, and he suddenly found an attack angle that she had not anticipated at all. He lifted his head slightly and kissed her lips. "To be precise, it's a bite. My lips were cold, but the moment I touched them, it seemed like a wildfire was raging, and my scattered breathing was scorching hot." Wanlan's lower lip was bitten out of blood by him. The blood seemed to calm him down, and he let out a gasp before closing his eyes and leaning against the wall. The night was quiet, and the man's shattered breathing was very clear, like feathers jumping back and forth into his heart. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. 3 seconds later, Zhouhechen asked coldly, "Wanlan, what are you doing?" End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Return of Night Turning Waves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Return of Night Turning Waves. Wanlan finally regained her senses and cut off the call without much expression. She is not really familiar with Zhouhechen, but she has been standing by Zhouhechen's side as a substitute when the time-traveling woman occupies her body. At that time, although she did not have control over her body, she was still able to know what was happening outside with the actions of the traveling woman. Jiangqing is located in the coastal area of China and is an economically developed metropolis with numerous wealthy families. The Zhou family is the first family in Jiangqing. Zhou Heqin, as the second son of the Zhou family, has excellent appearance and family background, and is famous throughout the entire Jiangqing area. He signed a 2-year stand-in agreement with the time-traveling woman, but as they had to defend themselves for white moonlight, there was no physical contact between the two. Zhou Heqin is extremely skilled at training young girls, and his sudden methods make the time-traveling girl more devoted to him. This is one of the few things that satisfies Wanlan, at least her body has not been contaminated with this dirty thing. She casually placed her phone on the bedside table, tilting her head towards the man's gaze. A pair of beautiful eyes, but at this moment he had no consciousness at all. His eyes were thick and gloomy, like the night without moonlight. Her first kiss. Wanlan's eyes narrowed, and the fingers covering his neck also tightened. She only needed 3 more points of force to at this moment, the man's strength was exhausted and his head sank, leaning against her shoulder. Wanlan raised her hand and directly knocked the man unconscious, throwing him onto the carpet without any psychological burden. Today he brought her joy, and she gave him a way out. Once past midnight, everything will return to its original state, she will enter the next cycle, and he will not remember her. She doesn't need to worry too much. At the same time, the Imperial Court Clubhouse. On the sofa, Zhou Heqin's face turned blue and the air pressure was low. Other young masters are also grand and dare not come out. This morning, they learned that Wanlan had taken Qin Xian to the hospital, thinking it was an April Fool's Day joke. It wasn't until they saw Qin Zhuo with bandages and a ventilator on his hands in the ward that they realized Wanlan had actually taken action. In their circle, Qin Xian and Zhou Heqin have the best relationship, as they grew up in the same pants. Qin Xian's life and death were unknown, and Zhou he was furious with the dust storm. He immediately sent someone to find Wanlan, but he searched the entire Jiangqing but couldn't find her. After finally getting through the phone, she ended up hanging up. Brother Heqin, don't be angry. There's no need to be angry about a promiscuous vase and ruin your body. A young master spoke cautiously, you and sister Yunyi are a perfect match. What's the point of turning the tide at night? What's wrong with me? Zhou Heqin sneered lightly, with a faint expression. I'm just thinking about when she's had the courage to do this. Did she really develop her skills, or did she climb up other high branches? He knew about Wanlan, a daughter flower that grew up attached to a man, and had no advantages except for a face that could please him. He and Sheng Yuni were childhood sweethearts, but in pursuit of higher painting skills, Sheng Yuni traveled across the ocean to study in the Starry Empire for 4 years. Although the distance between the Starry Empire and Shenzhou was only 16 hours by plane, he needed a stunt double to pass the time. He has no love for Wanlan, he just wants her to stay by his side in a proper manner. Fortunately, Wanlan is indeed very sensible and knows how to comfort his lonely heart. He only keeps her as an extra pet. After Sheng Yuni returned, the substitute agreement expired, and he naturally no longer needed this relationship. Wanlan should not expect more from him, threaten him with suicide, and even harm Sheng Yuni. Just thinking of the blurry gasp, and also realizing that it was the first time Wanlan had hung up his phone, Zhou Heqin felt a feeling of depression filling his chest, and his breathing was not smooth. It seems like something is starting to go beyond his control. He suddenly stood up with a cold expression. The young master was startled and said, Brother Heqin, what's wrong? Zhou Heqin took a deep breath and said in a low voice, General Quan has come to Jiangqing. I need to attend the reception, and I won't stay up all night for the next few days. If you play with me, please record it in my account. He patted the cigarette ash on his shirt and stopped at the door, saying, Keep going and find Wanlan for me. He needs her to know that even if you play hard to get, there must be limitations. Playing well is fun, too much is not enough. The wind rolls and the curtains move, and the summer light breaks through the clouds like golden threads, turning into molten gold and flowing in the blue sky. The clouds and clouds scatter, and the willow branches also sparkle with tiny golden fragments. Wanlan hadn't slept so peacefully for a long time, which made her realize in an instant that something was wrong. She suddenly opened her eyes and grabbed her phone. Screen lit up, time, May 19th at 7:00. Wanlan's expression shook as she suspected for the first time that the way she opened her eyes was incorrect. Over the past 990 years, every time she opened her eyes, it was midnight on May 18th, countless times, she heard Zhou Hechen's secretary give her instructions on how to learn Shengyuni and win Zhou Hechen's favor. But now it's daytime. Night turned the tide and restarted the phone, but the time on the screen was still bright May 19th. She arrived the next day. The infinite cycle of 999 years has been broken. She finally broke free from the shackles of time and was free. No one knows how she spent these 1999 years, as if she had lost contact with the whole world. The people she knows will not remember her the next day, and the antique she repaired will still be in its original state the next day. She once began to doubt the meaning of her life and became a madman. Now, her time has finally begun to flow. She can finally re-enter this world. No. Night turned Lan's expression into a cold one. She didn't know why she was trapped by time. Now that infinite reincarnation has been lifted, the reason is still unknown. What power has trapped her in time for 999 years? Will she be trapped again in the future? All these things are like the hands of a god, effortlessly playing with the lives of ordinary people. Even as the night turned the tide, there was a momentary pause in her heart. She took a few slow breaths, her eyes icy cold. After a while, she remembered that there was a second person in the room. Wanlan glanced at the man who was still unconscious, helped him to the bed, and stuffed a 100 yuan bill into her torn shirt. I thought time would reset after midnight and there would be no connection between them, but this time I missed the calculation. She doesn't want to have any involvement with this man. Wanlan wiped away all her traces and quietly left the hotel, putting on her coat. At 7:30 in the morning, it is the peak period for work. The road is bustling with vehicles and pedestrians. The sea breeze blows from the port, warm and slightly salty. After confirming for an hour that she had completely broken free from the time cycle, Wanlan washed off the bloody smell on her body, changed into a clean set of clothes, and returned to the Lin family. Coincidentally, I bumped into Lin Huijin who was going out to work. She paused her hand and whispered, "Uncle, it's me, I'm back." Lin Huijin didn't look at her and his voice was also cold. "No one asked you to come back. I opened a new book at the end of 2023, and the new article will be updated. First, I will cover 2 chapters. In the following year, Qingqing will accompany you with Lan Jie and Yan Gu. The new book is a pseudo-group portrait, with Lan Jie being the most Su and the strongest. The update time is every morning at 8:30 a.m., and any changes will be notified. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Scumbag Behavior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Scumbag Behavior. Wanlan's eyelashes trembled slightly and he said, "Uncle. That's not her." Lin Huijin's voice became even colder. "Don't call me." In these 4 years, he has been completely disappointed with his niece. He doesn't remember how many times he went to spend the night with Zhou Hechen, asking her to leave and go home, and asking her to leave the modeling industry and go to school to obtain a degree, but what he received was always contemptuous. Human hearts are all flesh and cannot withstand being repeatedly stabbed by knives. Over time, Lin Huijin gave up. What could he do if he exhausted all his efforts and couldn't bring the life of turning the tide of the night back on track? Lin Huijin was originally very fond of his niece. When he found out that his fellow brother still had bones and flesh left, he immediately traveled across the country to search for her and finally picked her up from the orphanage in Hong Kong. Yi Wanlan and Zhao Hui never needed him to teach her any principles. But when she was 14 years old, everything changed and became completely unknown to him. Lin Huijin thought that perhaps Yi Wanlan had reached a rebellious period, and he patiently guided her until she chose to give up her studies and become a model after graduating from junior high school. Later, she even went on to become a stunt double. For years have passed, and he thought he didn't have this niece at all. Lin Huijin's steps did not stop. "Uncle." A voice called out to him from behind, obedient and clever. "I don't have anywhere to go, can I come back?" Yi Wanlan couldn't explain the fact that her body was occupied by the time-traveling woman. Even if she said it, Lin Huijin wouldn't believe it. She was also well aware that these 4 years had caused tremendous harm to Lin Huijin, and she couldn't even defend herself. She could only watch her family leave her. Yi Wanlan's eyelashes drooped, her fingers clenched slightly, and her heart was filled with a powerful killing intent. Lin Huijin finally spoke with a cold voice. "When you come back, stay at home and stay well." He didn't turn back, nor did he stop. At this moment, Maple Leaf Hotel. Rongyu couldn't even wait for the elevator and ran up to the 7th floor. Behind him were 2 young guards, both looking anxious. "Listen to the wind." Rongyu broke through the door and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the man lying well on the bed. "You scared me to death, I thought you." Rongyu paused. He looked at the man with red marks on his neck and chest, and then at the cash stuffed at the collar of his shirt, and was shocked. Who slept with his brother? Not only did he sleep, but he also recklessly threw away the money and ran away. It's just scumbag behavior. Listen to the wind, wake up. Rongyu lost his composure. You've lost your virginity. Who did it? Brother, you must make this scumbag responsible for you. Yan Tingfeng had actually woken up, just closing his eyes and organizing his memories, but his memory was blank. He sat up slowly upon hearing the sound, and his slender fingers fastened the buttons of his shirt. Suddenly, I don't remember my face, he said. Since waking up, his health has been poor, which is a sequela left over from a long time ago. He knew that once he fell ill, he was not even as good as a young child, so he had to be alone when he fell ill. Yesterday was an accident. He vaguely remembered that he had indeed had a big battle with a girl. Even though he was completely unconscious, he could still feel her gaze sweeping over him, as if caressing every inch of his skin. She didn't kill him, let alone hurt him, just slept with him. Yan Tingfeng pondered and said, "Surveillance." The surveillance footage of the hotel, including the nearby streets, has been completely erased, the guard said shamelessly. "Sorry, young master, we cannot restore it." Rongyu was shocked and said, "You are still sleeping with a top-level hacker." "Well, go back first." Yan Tingfeng's expression was gentle, but his pupils were deep. The other party is cautious in their actions and will definitely not find anything in a short period of time. But he will find her. The guard delivered the coat. Yan Tingfeng put on a black long windbreaker, tore off the mask on his face, revealing his original appearance, which was even more vibrant. Accumulate stones like jade, row pine like emerald. Rongyu hesitated and said, "Brother, I don't think it's entirely their fault. After all, you are indeed beautiful and delicious." Yan Tingfeng looked at him with a gentle but sharp smile. He raised his eyebrows and a hint of sharpness appeared. "Rongyu, shut up." He didn't say anything. Lin Huijin has been restless all day today. He immediately went home after work, and even when he saw Yi Wanlan obediently sitting on the sofa reading a book, he didn't let his heart down. "You seem like a person today," Lin Huijin's voice was faint. "I thought you had been taken away from Zhouhechan for the past 2 years, as you have been closely following him." Yi Wanlan remained silent for a moment and smiled, "Uncle, don't worry, it will only be me in the future." Lin Huijin frowned at her and said, "What are you up to?" "There's nothing, uncle." Yi Wanlan stood up. Wenli should have finished school at this time. I'll go pick him up, and my aunt should be back soon. I'll go buy some more eggs. Lin Huijin couldn't believe it. You picked him up. Lin Wenli was already cold and thin-tempered, and the relationship between him and Yi Wanlan has deteriorated rapidly over the past 4 years, to the point of being disgusted by 2 glances. Well, cultivate feelings with him. Yi Wanlan pushed open the door. She was reincarnated with memories, and from the beginning of this life, she lost her father. When she was 5 years old, her mother abandoned her and married her into a wealthy family in Hong Kong. She was sent to an orphanage. At the age of 12, Lin Huijin took her back to the Lin family, and from then on, she had an uncle, aunt, and a cousin. Lin Wenli has been intelligent since childhood. He was admitted to Jiangqing No. 1 High School with the top 10 grades in the city in the middle school entrance examination. He is in his sophomore year and is about to enter his 3rd year of high school. His studies are very heavy. But he has a high IQ and can easily handle both big and small exams. At 7 p.m., the school gate was crowded with people. Lin Wenli did not have the habit of attending evening self-study and left school to go home after the course ended. He is 1.8 meters tall, with a dark and straight eyebrow, eye-catching appearance, and outstanding temperament. Wearing a pure black school uniform from Jiangqing No. 1 High School, he exudes a high level of fashion sophistication. It's just that this pretty face has no expression at all, making people feel intimidated. Wenli, then. Is that your cousin? The classmate suddenly said. She seems to be looking for you. Lin Wenli looked up coldly. The girl was wearing a loose and slightly pleated white shirt and high-waisted black pants, with a V-neck outlining her slender neckline, lazy and casual. She seemed to notice his gaze and turned her head. Faced with a non-human appearance strike, the classmate was stunned and said, Wenli, your sister looks. Lin Wenli didn't want to be surrounded, so he walked over and coldly took out a few bills from his backpack. There are only 200 left, take them away and disappear quickly, he said. Yi Wanlan's heart suddenly stopped, as if a big hand was gripping her heart, tightly gripping it, preventing her from breathing. She whispered, I'm here to pick you up and go home together. Lin Wenli's face was icy cold and he didn't say anything. In these 4 years, he has seen through the essence of his cousin. Hypocrisy, greed, and malice. He asked him not only for money, but also for money. At first, he believed that she was really in a hurry and gave her living expenses. After eating white flour mantou for a month, he only saw that she used the money to buy Zhou Hezhen a pair of cufflinks. Take him home. Funny. Lin Wenli ignored her and walked forward alone with his long legs. Yi Wanlan followed him calmly, half a step behind him. Several people who had been hiding in the shadows also appeared at this moment. They gathered around and blocked the way. Miss Yi finally appeared. The leader threw away the cigarette in their hand. I thought you were going to hide for a lifetime. Why do you insist on provoking us? Lin Wenli paused and said, what's going on? I broke Qin Xian's hand yesterday and stepped on his ankle again, Yi Wanlan wrote lightly, and now they just came knocking on me. Lin Wenli slowly turned his head. For the first time, a feeling of confusion and shock appeared on this paralyzed face. How on earth did you say, just so easily? Although the Qin family is not as good as the Zhou family in Jiangqing, it is also one of the several families with names and surnames in Jiangqing, far from being comparable to the Lin family, who were exiled to Jiangqing. He has seen the methods of these young masters, ruthless and vicious, which can make people disappear silently from the Jiangqing. Even though Lin Wenli didn't like his cousin anymore and didn't want her to die, he whispered, let's go. This is Jiangqing No. 1 Middle School. No matter how arrogant the Qin family is, they dare not take action here. The leader spoke again, Miss Yi, you'd better be obedient, otherwise the matter will reach Mr. Zhou's ears. Do you think you can still stay by his side? Hurry up. Zhou Hezhen is the lifeline of Yi Wanlan, and she has always been obedient to him. The leader of the settlement looked down at Wanlan, waiting for her to surrender and beg for mercy. Please him, he won't tell Zhou Hechun that she is disobedient. Dialogue between two pure lovers, Rongyu. You have been asleep. Yen Gu. Lan Jie, who just had a fight. Treat illness with illness on the last day of 2023. Happy New Year. Baby with Xiaoxiang ticket, give Lan Jie the last ticket for 2023. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. 7-string Qin, breaking formation music. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4. 7-string Qin, breaking formation music. Wanlan slowly looked up, rolled up her sleeves, and approached alone, saying, Wenli, wait for me here, I'll be ready soon. 1 minute. She only needs 1 minute to deal with these people. The person led by Shi Chu is very satisfied. They also do not want to forcibly take Wanlan away at the entrance of Jiangqing No. 1 Middle School, which has a negative impact and would damage the face of the Qin family. Lin Wenli was unable to dissuade him. He watched as Wanlan followed the guards of the Qin family into the alley, frowning. Even if he dislikes Wanlan no matter how much, he really hasn't reached the point of refusing to save his life. Lin Wenli eventually stepped forward, picked up his phone and prepared to call the police. 1 minute later, Wanlan also came out of the alley at this moment. Her hair was not messy, and her shirt was still pure white. But Lin Wenli noticed blood dripping down the girl's index finger. Finger bones are like jade, crimson and dazzling, like enchanting ghosts. Lin Wenli was shocked and took 2 more steps before finally seeing the full view of the alley. The 5 guards of the Qin family fell to the ground, stacked one by one, spitting blood from their mouths, with blue noses and swollen faces, clearly suffering from inhumane abuse. This is a unilateral assault. Wanlan wiped her hands and didn't pay much attention. The matter is resolved, go home. Lin Wenli didn't move. He doesn't remember the last time he saw Wanlan, but he still remembers how she pandered to the people in Zhou Hechun's circle in all sorts of ways, and how did she suddenly change her mind. They want to hit me. Wanlan looked up slowly and explained more, but unfortunately, they fell. Lin Wenli looked at one of the guards who had a broken leg and said, Are you saying they fell like this? Wanlan affirmed, I told you, they fell like this when they came in. Lin Wenli. He can be certain that Wanlan has gone crazy. But it has nothing to do with him. Lin Wenli put away her phone and left expressionless. The siblings continued to walk in front of each other. Silent all the way. The iris swayed in the wind, and the night turned the tide and said, I'm going home to live. Upon hearing these words, Lin Wenli suddenly stopped and mocked, going home. Didn't you say that it's not your home, that I can't even give you a Kartika bag? He has a good memory. I remember that time when Lin Huijin met Wanlan on the street. She kindly advised her to go back and continue her studies, but she smashed her face with a heavy luxury bag. What are the benefits of going back to school for me? I can't afford to buy Jia Taika's bag even if I work hard for a lifetime. Do you know how much this bag costs? It's worth 1.2 million. Can you give it to me? Get out. Recalling these words, Lin Wenli's gaze became a bit cold again. He won't believe in Wanlan. Wanlan's eyelashes drooped and her voice was slightly cool. I threw those away. Lin Wenli smiled coldly and quickened his pace. It was already 7:30 when the two of them returned home, and the aroma of rice filled their faces. Dad, Mom, I'm back. Lin Wenli nodded slightly and put down his backpack to wash his hands. Wanlan greeted Su Peiqing, who had only recently returned, and said, Hello, Auntie. Su Peiqing didn't look at her or speak. She clenched her chopsticks, her eyes dim, and restrained herself from getting angry. Lin Huijin broke the deadlock and said, Let's eat. The 4 of them had different thoughts during this meal. Yi Wanlan finished eating and picked up an empty plate to go to the kitchen. Su Peiqing finally spoke up, "Don't touch it, let go. It's none of your business. Auntie. Let go." Wow. During the struggle, the plate fell to the ground and became fragments. A dead silence fell. Yi Wanlan stared blankly at her hand, her eyelashes trembling slightly. "All right, sit down and I'll go wash the dishes." Lin Huijin felt a headache. Su Peiqing took a deep breath and slammed the door back into the room. Lin Wenli remained expressionless as he looked at Yi Wanlan and said, "You shouldn't have come back." Yi Wanlan squatted down and held a fragment in her palm, letting blood seep out. After a while, she whispered, "I'll go to the attic." Peiqing. Lin Huijin pushed open the door of the master bedroom and whispered, "Don't be angry, it's not good for your health." "Why is she here?" Su Peiqing suddenly turned back and questioned with tears in her eyes. "Lin Huijin, have you healed your scar and forgotten about the pain? Have you forgotten how she treated you? Over the past 4 years, Yi Wanlan has trampled their kindness into mud countless times. She couldn't bear to live under the same roof as such a person." Lin Huijin paused for a moment and said, "I think she really came back this time, just like 6 years ago when she was 12 years old, she." Su Peiqing wiped away her tears and spoke coldly, "I don't believe it. Yesterday, the Zhou family sent someone here to find her. How do you know that she wasn't abandoned by the Zhou family's young master and came back for a second time? She only sees you as a way out. Unfortunately, you still believe in her." The incident of Yi Wanlan acting as a substitute for Zhou Hechen has caused turmoil in Jiangqing. Su Peiqing also knew that Yi Wanlan had run away several times in the past 2 years, and ultimately ended up with her returning to Zhou Hechen's side. What are they? Is there a link between Yi Wanlan and Zhou Hechen's interests? They are also human, and their hearts are also flesh-growing. After a long silence, Lin Huijin said hoarsely, "Peiqing, for the last time, I promise." Su Peiqing closed her eyes and said, "Okay, I can treat her as someone who doesn't exist. I only have one request, she can't affect Wenli. The future of Yi Wanlan has long been irrelevant to her." Yi Wanlan is cleaning the attic. There are many miscellaneous items piled up here, almost all of which are hers. After the time-traveling woman occupied her body, she never returned to the Lin family, let alone knew about this place. Apart from books, the most eye-catching one is a 7-string qin, which is covered in dust and obviously has not moved for a long time. Yi Wanlan wiped the body and strings of the piano clean and gently plucked one of the strings. Zheng. The strings vibrate, great music has the faintest notes. The night turned the waves and blew away the dust on the sheet music. The dust dispersed, and the 3 words, breaking the formation music, came into view. A time-traveling woman would never have imagined that the first of China's long-lost 10 classical masterpieces would be located in this inconspicuous attic, a treasure that the World Intangible Cultural Heritage Center has been striving for. Yi Wanlan collected the music sheet and moved the 7-stringed instrument into the bedroom. When she returned in the morning, she knew that although she had been away from the Lin family for the past 4 years, Lin Huijin still kept her room. Even when she went out to pick up Lin Wenli, she prepared new sheets and covers. Night turned the tide with a faint expression. What is a desperate situation? She has always enjoyed meeting life in the dead, and can also kill it happily. Mobile phone vibration, new news comes in. Qingqingli. Lan Jie, my ancestors. What have you done? Qingqingli is her newly changed agent, and the two have not met yet. They are only a month younger than her and have come out to work early. Yi Wanlan took a glance. It's a screenshot of a social circle. Someone posted a photo of the Qin family guard being beaten and vomiting blood, and added, "When did Zhou Gongzi's pet go so crazy?" Below is a string of messages. No, isn't she? Did she go crazy because of love and hate towards Lord Zhou? What's the use of going crazy? When young Master Zhou waved, she would still run over and just play hard to get. Yunyi's sister has returned, she wouldn't think she could compete with the main character, would she? At the bottom is Zhou Hechen's comment. Idiotic thoughts. On the first day of 2024, babies, Happy New Year. Wow. Lan Jie's book will write about many intangible cultural heritages and the revival of Chinese culture in Shenzhou during the double period of Xiaoxiang tickets. Babies with tickets can vote for Lan Jie PS, normal daily shift during public hours. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. World-class unsolved mysteries. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. World-class unsolved mysteries. Wanlan was not interested and did not reply. She just left WeChat when Qingli's phone came in. Lan Jie, have you seen it? It's not a big deal. Wanlan pressed the hands.free button and stood up to tidy up the bookshelf, saying, is there any problem? Of course there is. Qingli became anxious, don't mention offending the Zhou family. Even if you offend the Qin family, you will be banned in the modeling industry. Good thing. Wanlan smiled faintly, I was planning to withdraw from the circle. Qingli suspected that she had heard the wrong thing and said, quitting the circle. Are you crazy? Wanlan's face and figure are indeed top-notch, and the modeling industry does not require acting skills like the entertainment industry. And she also heard from the elderly in the company that Wanlan worked tirelessly to squeeze into the modeling industry. How could she just quit? Qingli, have you considered changing jobs? Wanlan asked without answering a month ago, after Sheng Yuni returned to her home country. Huangqi Entertainment Company cut off the resources of time-traveling girl to show loyalty and threw her to Qingli, a newcomer who was excluded by the company. The reason why a time-traveling woman chooses to leave her body is also because she is forced to a desperate situation and has no way out. But for her, as long as she doesn't die, she can find a way out. Qingli was taken aback and said, Lan Jie. Wanlan said, why don't you continue with me? Qingli tearfully said, you're about to withdraw from the circle, how can I follow you? Working people belong to her in difficult circumstances. Falling out of the circle doesn't mean I don't do anything anymore. I just don't like to show off too much. I have other goals, Wanlan chuckled lightly. I need people, many people. Qingli subconsciously asked, what goal? Wanlan said, first, let's set a small goal, such as earning 1 billion first. Qingli. She ultimately came to the conclusion that Wanlan had gone crazy. The call ended, and Wanlan pulled out a book. The pages of the book are yellowed and dated, but they are well preserved by the owner. She flipped open and the door was knocked at that moment. Wake up at night, go open the door. Uncle. Since I've gone home, all my bad habits have been corrected. Lin Huijin walked in and looked at her up and down. If I find you running back to find Zhou Hechen again, I'll break your leg. Wanlan was very obedient and said, no problem, uncle. She agreed very quickly, but it made Lin Huijin hesitate. Is your mental state not quite right? The current night scene gives him a very strange feeling. Although it is calm and motionless like a mountain, there are turbulent waves surging down the mountain, and I don't know when the waves will shatter the entire mountain. A calm and violent, extremely contradictory. Wanlan smiled slightly and said, it's okay. In a rule of law society, she can stay stable and won't commit murder indiscriminately. I heard from Wanli that No. 1 middle school has recently hired a psychological counselor from Yunjing to specifically relieve student stress. Lin Huijin hesitated and said, otherwise. Would you like to take a look? Wanlan smiled again and said, okay, thank you uncle. You used to read this book once a day, but it's all broken. Lin Huijin noticed the pages that were opened and sighed. In the Yongshun period of the Shenzhou calendar in 1723, unknown forces invaded and Princess Jingyan died from a car split. Emperor Yongshun hanged herself to protect the people, and Princess Yongla self-immolated in the Yongla Palace, leading to the downfall of the Ning dynasty. This is known as the Battle of 10,000 Armies. In history, this humiliating war resulted in China falling behind the entire world by more than 100 years for a long period of time. Until today, no one, including the World Strategic Research Institute, has been able to identify the enemy who invaded China 300 years ago. It has become a world-class unsolved mystery. Lin Huijin shook her head, sighed, and then looked at the 7-string qin. This qin has been playing for so long, when will you play a piece of music to listen to? Do you know how to play the gu qin? Yi Wanlan thought for a moment and said, when I killed someone. Lin Huijin. He saw that she was indeed sick and quite insane. I have read a lot of martial arts novels, such as qin music for murder. Lin Huijin pressed her temples and said, you can go to No. 1 middle school tomorrow to see a psychological counselor. I will make an appointment for you. If the situation is bad, we will be hospitalized. Yi Wanlan remained gentle and said, everyone listens to uncle. Your aunt. Lin Huijin hesitated before finally walking out. Remembering the past joy and harmony, his heart was sour and unbearable. A family, how did it become like this? He dare not expect to go back to the past days, only hoping that his niece's life can return to the right track, and he can also be considered to have an explanation to his elder brother. The next day, at 8 o'clock in the morning, at Jiangqing First Hospital. Ah Xian hasn't woken up yet. Zhou Hechen stood outside the ICU, looking ugly. Not yet. The secretary lowered her head, Miss Yi and Miss Yi are very aggressive. It has been 2 days since the incident, and he still can't imagine how Yi Wanlan's thin body could unleash such a powerful force, even defeating Qin Xian who had been practicing boxing since childhood. He Chen, that little girl's surname Yi is too much. Mrs. Qin wiped her tears, I know you spoil her, but what do you think she has done? Auntie reminds you that Yini has already returned. Auntie, don't worry, Zhou Hechen softened his attitude when he mentioned Xing Yini. I will definitely handle this matter well. Your words are enough, Qin Fu pointed out with some understanding. He Chen, some women like to play hard to get, so you must not be deceived. Auntie hopes that you can handle things well before Ah Xian wakes up, otherwise. If the Qin family were to take action, even if Yi Wanlan didn't die, he would lose his skin. Zhou Hechen said calmly, I understand, Auntie. Auntie, He Chen. A soft voice sounded. Zhou Hechen turned around, his furrowed brows finally relaxed, and he smiled, why did you come over at this time? You haven't had a good meal these days, I'm afraid you have a stomach ache, Xing Yuni handed over the insulated lunchbox. No matter how much you have to do, you have to take care of your health. Thank you very much, Zhou Hechen's eyes were soft. Your hands need to be used for drawing, don't cook anymore. Yuni has come. Mrs. Qin affectionately held her hand, long time no see, beautiful again. Has Ah Xian not woken up yet? Xing Yuni's brows and eyes were shrouded in sorrow, how could he be so hurt? Madame Qin sighed and said, if you come to see him, he will definitely recover faster. Xing Yuni nodded. After accompanying for a while, she got up to leave. Zhou Hechen said, I'll see you off. No need, Xing Yuni smiled. You're busy, I'll go to the studio. Zhou Hechen instructed his secretary, send Yuni back. The secretary responded and drove Xing Yuni to the studio. The red light at the intersection ahead is on, and the car is stuck at the entrance of Jiangqing No. 1 Middle School. The secretary caught a glimpse of someone and suddenly frowned. In the rearview mirror, Yi Wanlan is approaching the direction of the car. Miss Yi, take a step. The secretary rolled down the car window and looked at her harshly, with a hint of mockery. It's not a gentleman in the car. What do you want to do to Miss Yuni after you? Is it good to accumulate some virtue for yourself? After breaking the cycle, Lan Jie met everyone she met. Yi Wanlan went crazy. Lan Jie. Smiling, that's right, trapped on the same day for 999 years, who wouldn't go crazy? The main text between each book is not related, let's treat it as an independent new article. The linkage is outside the main text. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Encounter, Princess Yongning and the Lord of Shenxiao Tower. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6. Encounter, Princess Yongning and the Lord of Shenxiao Tower. The secretary stood in front of Shengyuni, watching Yi Wanlan with caution. Shengyuni turned her head in surprise, but did not see the girl's front face. She only skimmed over the vehicle and entered the gate of a middle school. The secretary was taken aback and said, "She's not." Surprisingly, it wasn't the car that tracked Zhou Hechen all the way here. The secretary frowned even tighter and explained in a low voice, "I'm sorry, Miss Yuni. It's me who's stressed, and I'm afraid she'll hurt you again." "It's okay," Sheng Yuni's voice was gentle. Hechen said she hasn't attended high school before. How could she go to the high school department of number 1 middle school? The secretary breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, "Perhaps I wanted to improve my education, but unfortunately it didn't work. It's still useful. A high school education is better than junior high school." Miss Yuni said, "I heard that you were admitted to Hong Kong City University of the Arts at the age of 16, which is admirable." "Everyone has their own strengths," Sheng Yuni sighed. "I can't learn classical music that Hechen likes well." The secretary complimented, "No matter where, as long as it's you, sir will like it." Sheng Yuni smiled slightly and stopped speaking. The green light came on, and the car swept away from the dust. At this moment, Jiangqing number 1 middle school, psychological counseling room. Yi Wanlan knocked on the door and got permission to enter. The layout inside the door is simple, with only tables, chairs, bookshelves, and a computer. Rong Yu looked up and said, "You were the night classmate who made an appointment yesterday, right?" The girl was dressed in a new Chinese-style outfit, with a pure white slanted front shirt and a light blue moonlight skirt. The wind blew the hem of the skirt, and the patterns flowed like a galaxy surging. The sunshine dyed a layer of gold on her cold and picturesque eyebrows, so beautiful that it seemed to seal time, leaving people silent for a long time and afraid to be alarmed. Until Rongyu was kicked by the person trapped in the soft chair. He felt the pain and immediately regained his mind. "Hello, Yi, I am your psychological counselor this time. My surname is Rong, please sit down first, and I will diagnose your pulse." Yi Wanlan sat down according to her words and raised her eyebrows, saying, "A psychological counselor, learning traditional Chinese medicine to diagnose pulse." Rong Yu said unfathomably, "I'm different, all I need is my pulse." "Pulse, surname, and appearance Tai Su Mai." Yi Wanlan's eyes narrowed. Rong Yu did not notice the subtle changes in the girl's expression, but was captured clearly by Yan Tingfeng. His eyelashes lifted slightly, revealing his icy moonlight-like eyes, but his voice was gentle. "What's wrong?" "I haven't heard of such psychotherapy before, I'm just curious," said Yi Wanlan calmly. "No, of course she knows. In the past, Taisu's sect, one of the 6 major sects in Shenzhou, was a world-renowned martial arts force known for its physiognomy. Those who are too naive, know the will of heaven above and peep into the heart below. She doesn't know Rongyu, but she knows his ancestors." "Night classmate, don't worry, I'm very reliable," Rongyu said as he began to check his pulse. Time passed by minute by second, and his expression became even more solemn until it shattered. Something's wrong, why hasn't he figured out anything? As a member of the Rong family and carrying the orthodox inheritance of the Taisu sect, he can be considered an ordinary person with ease. It seems that pulse diagnosis is of no use. Yi Wanlan leaned back in her chair and smiled slightly. Dr. Rong can change the treatment. Rong Yu became autistic and said. "Night classmate, fill out the form." Yi Wanlan sat in front of the computer filling out a mental health test form. After filling it out, a cup appeared in front of her. A voice fell down. "Drink some hot water." Night turned the tide and looked up. It was another person in the counseling room who noticed it as soon as she entered. The nameplate is Assistant, but this identity does not match his temperament and appearance very much. He has a gentle smile and a clear gaze, which can be described as the beauty of the sunset and the charm of the moon. The dragon and phoenix colors are as bright as jade trees in front of the wind. Yi Wanlan couldn't help but smell the strong fresh blood. This reminded her of an old friend from a past life. She has another secret: she is a person who reincarnates with past life memories. The name of this life was also chosen by herself. It is not accurate to say that she is an old friend. When she was Princess Yongning, they had never met before, only standing side by side with her name. 300 years ago, the youngest martial arts alliance leader in the martial arts world. The Lord of Shenxiao Tower. Some people say that she and the Lord of Shenxiao Tower are one as the Prince of Daning and the other as the most holy in the martial arts world. They are each kings in the rivers, lakes, and temples, and together they are unbeatable in the world. Later generations even added a romantic legend to their unofficial history, imagining the pair of dragons and phoenixes from 100 years ago, but they did not know each other. Her impression of the owner of Shenxiao Tower only exists in the rumors of the market. Just 300 years later, the mountains and rivers will forever pass away, and even the most legendary historical figures will be destroyed. Yi Wanlan looked at the man in front of her. The two looked at each other calmly, one with a calm expression and the other with a smile in their eyes. But there seems to be lightning and thunder, and the rain falls and flows wildly. Finally, Yan Tingfeng moved his gaze away, and strange waves rippled through his pitch-black pupils. Rongyu didn't notice any abnormalities between the two of them. He was reviewing the results of his psychological test and couldn't help but take a deep breath. "Your situation is really serious. What are you thinking every day?" Yi Wanlan. "Murder, the world is destroyed." Rongyu. At this moment, a sudden killing intent rushed towards me, almost turning into a sharp blade that was about to cut off a person's throat. Rongyu couldn't catch his breath. Yi Wanlan suddenly smiled and said, "Just kidding, Dr. Rong, I am a good person with integrity." The air was flowing again, and Rongyu coughed violently. Night, classmates, this joke is not good. You must think less about these dark things and look at flowers, plants, trees, and small animals every day. Do you think the world is very beautiful? I don't think so. The 1-hour psychological counseling is over. Rongyu's gaze was dull. He also wants to destroy the world. Yan Tingfeng stood up and said, "I'll see Miss Yi out." Rongyu was taken aback for a moment, feeling a bit curious. "Brother, you." He has known Yan Tingfeng for 4 years. His brother has always been gentle and has almost no temper, but he has never seen Yan Tingfeng take the initiative. Yan Tingfeng ignored Rongyu and left the psychological counseling room. "There's no need to give it away," Yi Wanlan said in a cool tone. "Don't worry, at least I won't do these things now." Yan blinked at Feng Wenyan and chuckled softly, "It's raining, Miss Yi." Droplets of water fall and mist permeates. In the hazy drizzle, the man's complexion becomes more magnificent and elegant, gentle like spring water. He took out a hat and put it on her head, saying gently, "Be careful on the way." After Yi Wanlan left, the smile on Yan Tingfeng's face disappeared in an instant, leaving only the deep-seated violence and killing intent. Behind him, the dark guard appeared silently. "Check her out." "Yes, young master." In the afternoon, at the old residence of the Lin family. The Lin family holds a family banquet every week, and today happens to be Saturday. There are 4 people in Lin Huijin's generation. Lin Wuyu and Lin Huijin are siblings born in the year of the dragon and phoenix, named after the four characters, Huijin Wuyu. Your cousin is coming over tonight, Lin Chuanyu said. Don't say anything wrong then, just keep your mouth shut for me. Cousin. In one sentence, Lin Yu and Lin Qin stopped their movements at the same time. Forgot. Lin Chuanyu said again, it's your eldest uncle's daughter. Your third uncle brought it back. Lin Yu sneered, of course I know, Mom. You should ask, who in the big and small families of Jiangqing doesn't know Miss Xingyini's double? Lin Chuanyu slapped his shoulder and said, how can you speak? Lin Yuewei snorted, what I said is true. Lin Qin asked lightly, what is she doing here? Is it because she had no hope of attaching herself to the Zhou family, and then inquired about her potential to bring this collateral back to her original home in Yunjing, that she returned to attend the family banquet and establish a relationship? Yan changed his face, as mentioned in Chapter 3, but Lan Jie didn't recognize it. Lan Jie has signed the contract. Q reading and red sleeves have been synchronized. Please vigorously throw the recommended monthly ticket to Lan Jie. Give the reward to Sister Lan according to your abilities. P.S. Encountering a strange incident, a reader reported a book plagiarizing Ying Huang and Qin Qing. While preparing the color palette, they discovered that the author was actually following me as a writer's assistant. And even voted for Lan Jie's recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Yunjing Lin Family, Descendants of Tianyin Square. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7. Yunjing Lin Family, Descendants of Tianyin Square. Lin is a big surname and a descendant of Tianyin Fang. Tianyin Fang is the only martial arts force composed of women among the 6 major sects, specializing in classical instruments. Heavenly musicians, strings move 5 notes, even gods and ghosts are startled. 300 years ago in World War I, although Tianyin Temple was destroyed, fortunately, some of its disciples have been passed down to this day. There are many branches of the Lin family, and the Lin family in Jiangqing is not among the top 10 in Jiangqing. However, the Yunjing Lin family is one of the 5 wealthy families in Yunjing, and it is also an authentic inheritance of the Tianyin Fang. The Lin family takes pride in giving birth to daughters, and all music skills are passed down only to females and not to males. If a branch has a daughter who can pass the assessment of the family, the branch can return to the family. Lin Huijin and his team, except for Lin Qin, have shown extremely high proficiency in the Guqin, which the Lin family attaches great importance to. I'm not sure, but I told you in advance that even if you have any dissatisfaction, don't show it. Lin Huiyu warned the siblings, when it comes to angering your grandmother's health, don't blame me for taking care of you. Lin Yu pouted and said, it's not us who are angry with grandma. Lin Qin didn't speak, but his heart was restless, and he had no intention of practicing the piano. She didn't want to get involved with Wanlan, and whenever she heard her classmates at school using Wanlan as a substitute as a joke, she felt embarrassed. Fortunately, Wanlan did not change her surname after returning to the Lin family, and not many people knew that Wanlan was her cousin. Lin Qin's expression was faint. She really wants to see what Wanlan, who hasn't returned in 4 years, is going to do this time. At this moment, on the way to the Lin family's old house, Lin Huijin is responsible for driving, while Su Peiqin and Lin Wenli sit in the back row, leaving a seat for Wanlan as the co-pilot. The atmosphere inside the car is condensed. When waiting for the red light, Lin Huijin asked, how was the consultation result? Wanlan remained calm and composed. He said, I'm just feeling a bit depressed. The world inside me is very beautiful, and my character is excellent and upright. Lin Huijin believed and said, that's good. Go to the old house later, and be good to yourself. What Wanlan has done in the past 4 years is well known by the Lin family, and they have never invited her to a family banquet. I haven't seen my grandmother for a long time, I don't know how her health is, Wanlan said softly. Just don't make your grandmother angry, Lin Huijin sighed. I also wish you were really lost. 30 minutes later, the four arrived at the Lin family. Lin Huijin went to park, and Yi Wanlan followed Su Peiqing and Lin Wenli into the lobby. The other two rooms of the Lin family are in, and there are several cousins and sisters. Peiqing is here, sit down quickly. Oh, Wenli, I heard from Qin that you are very popular at school and your studies are okay. Why are you so talented? Su Peiqing and Lin Wenli took their seats, and the eyes of the Lin family finally focused on Yi Wanlan like charity. She was still wearing her new Chinese-style uniform, with her long hair scattered on her shoulders pulled up by a wooden hairpin, revealing her fair and slender neck, complemented by a pair of jade earrings. A moment of silence. Everyone came up with a word, unmatched Ronghua. Lin Yu muttered, no wonder I can be the substitute for Miss Shenxiao. I have some capital. Lin Chuangyu immediately hit him and said, shut up. Lin Qin frowned slightly. Although Yi Wanlan has not returned to the Lin family in the past 4 years, she also happened to meet her cousin in the mall, so she would never have this kind of demeanor. On the main seat, Lin Weilan, who was closing her eyes and recuperating, suddenly opened her eyes and burst into laughter. Alan has come back, she said, Grandma, I came in a hurry and didn't prepare anything good for you. Yi Wanlan put down the tea box she was carrying. Once the people come, that's enough. Lin Weilan waved at her and smiled even deeper. Come and let Grandma take a look. Grandma hasn't seen you for a long time. This scene is sensational. Lin Qingwen and his wife exchanged a glance, their expressions slightly changed. Lin Yu couldn't help but say, Mom, Yi Wanlan has done so many despicable things. Why is Grandma? Lin Chuangyu said, shut up. Lin Yu was a bit angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. Lin Weilan is the head of the family and has absolute authority. Yi turned the waves forward and slightly bent down. It's great to be back, Lin Weilan murmured, with a crystal-clear expression in her eyes. Grandma is very happy, it's really not easy. Yi Wanlan's gaze twitched slightly. Alan sits with Grandma, Lin Weilan instructed. It's getting late too. You all sit down, butler. You can start cooking now. Lin Weilan's favoritism has caused some discomfort among many members of the Lin family. Faced with a table full of delicious food, Lin Qin lost his appetite and found it difficult to swallow. Lin Huijin was also extremely surprised. He admitted that he already favored Yi Wanlan, otherwise he wouldn't have agreed to let her come back to live. How can Lin Weilan not distinguish right from wrong? Mrs. Lin was also puzzled and said, what does this mean, madam? How would I know? Lin Qingwen shook her head and lowered her voice, you don't have to worry about anything. Mom's favoritism is useless. This big niece, can't be saved. Mrs. Lin thinks so too. Relaxed my mind. Lin Weilan suddenly asked, I remember Alan's birthday is coming up soon. What birthday gift do you want? The table was once again silent. Yi Wanlan said, why don't Grandma give me the small company Huadong? Lin Weilan was taken aback and said, why did you think of this? Huadong is a company of the Lin family that is on the verge of bankruptcy, entering the clothing industry, but even she is almost forgotten. Yi Wanlan casually wrote, I want to try managing a company. She never conceals her ambition. She naturally likes power and power. The scenery is so beautiful, why not let people linger? In Princess Yongning's life, her biggest regret was still the failure to achieve her goals. In this life, her body was suddenly pierced and she was caught off guard, and many plans did not start to be implemented. But it's not too late now. Okay, you have the courage. Lin Weilan suddenly burst out laughing, take it if you want, and do whatever you want. This time, even Lin Huijin was surprised and said, Mom, this doesn't match. Lin Weilan looked at him. Lin Huijin swallowed the word, rules, back. Alan, stay at the old house tonight, Lin Weilan patted Yi Wanlan's hand. Grandma will transfer Huidong to your name in a while. Thank you, Grandma. Yi Wanlan nodded, I want to see your body. No need, it's an old problem. Lin Weilan waved her hand and smiled, Grandma, it's enough to see you back. And seeing you, my body has improved a lot. Yi Wanlan hugged her arm and said in an irresistible tone, Grandma, just take a look. Lin Weilan couldn't help but laugh and cry, okay, let's see. It's all up to you. The old lady's body is taken care of by a specialized therapist, and even if there are any problems, we will accompany her. Mrs. Lin looked at Yi Wanlan calmly, can you not use the tricks used on men on your grandmother, okay? Each chapter has a lot of foreshadowing. Babies, don't stop reading the check.in comments. The public period data is very important, which is related to our explosive listing. Continue to ask for recommendation tickets for Lan Jie. 2 of the 6 major sects have appeared Tai Su men. Knowing the will of heaven above, peering into the heart below. Tianyin Fang. The string moves 5 notes, and even the gods and ghosts are shocked. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Kunqu Opera, Inheritor of Intangible Cultural Heritage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Kunqu Opera, Inheritor of Intangible Cultural Heritage. By Zhou Hechin's side, she was accustomed to using seductive methods to rise to power. After returning to the Lin family, she still couldn't restrain herself, and even she could see that Yi Wanlan's mind was impure. But unfortunately, this appearance won Lin Weilan's favor. Mrs. Lin was extremely angry and couldn't bear it anymore. This sentence makes the previously quiet restaurant even more silent at this moment. Yi Wanlan slowly lifted her head and said calmly, what are you saying? She supported her chin with one hand and the jade earrings swayed lightly. Clearly, he smiled slightly, but it seemed that Mount Tai was on the top of the mountain and the wind and rain were coming. It's hard to imagine an 18-year-old girl feeling the oppression of someone who has been in power for a long time. Mrs. Lin said sternly and inwardly, what's wrong with you? It's only natural for elders to teach younger generations. Is it difficult for you to break glass as soon as you touch it? Second sister. Law, that's not right. Su Peiqing, who had not spoken yet, said calmly, why did you become her elder if you didn't take care of her for a day? Mrs. Lin just sneered contemptuously. The Lin family is the only one worth making friends with, and Su Peiqing only has one son. Learning well is one thing, but no matter how well you learn, you cannot return to your hometown in Yunjing. Lin Weilan spoke calmly, I am indeed old, and there are already young people who want to replace me. As soon as this sentence was spoken, everyone's faces changed. Mom. Mrs. Lin was surprised and apologized, Mom, that's not what I meant. I just wanted to help you. Lin Weilan didn't look at her and hummed, go to the ancestral hall by yourself. Mrs. Lin's smile solidified and she said, yes, Mom. Her movements when getting up were also very stiff, and Lin Qingwen didn't dare to speak for her. Lin Weilan coughed and said, look at what I'm doing, eat. What Mom said is, everyone eats. Lin Yu hurriedly greeted, Qin, eat more shrimp, and we'll have to practice the piano later. Wanlan, you also have some. Fortunately, I didn't say anything. Otherwise, I would be the one kneeling in the temple. Lin Yu patted his chest and whispered, but little sister, I think my grandmother must be unconscious. Lin Qin remained noncommittal. After dinner, Lin Weilan called Yi Wanlan into the study. Lin Qingwen went up to the ancestral hall on the top floor, and Mrs. Lin was kneeling on a cattail. He shook his head and said, you were impulsive today, don't do this next time. Am I impulsive? Mrs. Lin sneered, she asked the old lady to give her a company with just one sentence. If we continue to coax her, wouldn't the old lady also give her the Lin family? She and Lin Qingwen only have one son, but the Lin family takes pride in having a daughter. This is equivalent to cutting off her desire to return to her hometown in Yunjing, and she can only go and please the Lin Weiyu family. That's a company that's on the verge of bankruptcy. Give it to me, then give it to me. Lin Qingwen didn't care, she can't help the mud up the wall. My mother has an old illness and she might leave someday. Mrs. Lin was not comforted and said, I just can't stand her fox-like appearance. The Zhou family can't please her anymore, and they came to us again to eat grass. In a few words, they made the old lady happy like that. She is indeed just like her mother. Yi Wanlan's family situation is complex, and she had already heard about it when she was brought back by Lin Huijin 6 years ago. Lin Jiayan, the eldest son of the Lin family, is nowhere to be found. His wife remarried to a wealthy family in the port city, leaving behind a dragging oil bottle like Yi Wanlan. Returning to the Lin family without changing their surname, where does it look like the Lin family? Her mother sighed. Lin Qingwen's expression became serious. Have you ever contacted her again? Is it possible? If I had such a troublesome daughter, it would be great if I didn't stay away. That's right. Lin Qingwen nodded. Even if Lin Weilan is protecting the night turning Lan, it won't last long. Yi Wanlan came out of the study. It was already 8 p.m. and the Lin family had all dispersed. Su Peiqing also left the old house with Lin Wenli. You were really reckless today. Fortunately, your grandmother is in a good mood. Lin Huijin felt a headache. What do you want that small company that is about to go bankrupt to do? Do you still know how to do business? Yi Wanlan asked him, Uncle, do you expect one day that China will become the center of world culture, economy, and art, and once again ascend to the throne of number one? Lin Huijin was taken aback and said, What? Yi Wanlan looked at the sky and smiled silently, I'm looking forward to it. The more you say, the more strange it becomes. Lin Huijin frowned. By the way, in the future, you should avoid criticizing your second aunt. She has a hot temper and needs to be strong. It's probably because your cousin has been causing her a bad mood lately. Don't get into conflicts and make your grandmother unhappy. Yi Wanlan let out a sigh, indicating that she heard. At this moment, the phone vibrated and a text message came in. Morning bar, old place, come pick me up. No signature. Yi Wanlan, click on delete and blacklist the number. What's wrong? Fraudulent SMS. Lin Huijin nodded and didn't ask any more questions. The next day, early Sunday morning. Lin Weilan had a rare night without a dream. She was full of energy and said, Grasp you and Qin can help me go to the southern city to send something to Tingyue. Okay, Mom. Lin Chuanyu replied, You must rest more and don't get tired. Lin Weilan was in a good mood and said, I have a plan in mind. Lin Chuanyu smiled and said, So it seems that Wanlan is really helpful for your body. Lin Weilan sighed, This child is suffering. Lin Chuanyu was a bit confused, but didn't ask much. After changing clothes, he drove with Lin Qin to the south city. Nancheng is a small city adjacent to Jiangcheng, which is only an hour-and-a-half drive away. Although the southern city is small, it has a strong cultural atmosphere and a developed tourism industry, with many handicraft artists and inheritors of intangible cultural heritage. Lin Qin doesn't like this place. Every time Lin Wangyu brings her to find Yan Tingyue, she has to walk a long wild road. She specifically wore rain boots today to prevent dirtying her pants. Aunt Yan, today I'm here to help my mom bring you something. Lin Chuanyu put down the box, How have you been lately? I see you're very happy today. Yan Tingyue smiled and said, I have a descendant, so it's rare for me to be happy. Lin Weiyu was surprised and said, Descendants. She knew that Yan Tingyue, like Lin Weilan, were both inheritors of intangible cultural heritage in China. The difference is that Lin Weilan is a Guqin, while Yan Tingyue is a Kunqu opera. 300 years ago, in that war, the civilization of China was completely destroyed and its inheritance is gone forever. Afterwards, it was rebuilt on the ruins, but after being impacted by the Industrial Revolution, it only focused on the economy in heavy industry, while culture fell far behind. Even though Kunqu opera is hailed as the ancestor of all kinds of opera, it has declined significantly. Yan Tingyue was a disciple of Chu Sheng and held a high position in the cultural world. She only temporarily lived in seclusion here, and there are also rumors that she is a descendant of Xiaoyao Wang, one of the four kingdoms. Her vision is too high, it's as difficult as heaven to find a successor. Yeah. Yan Tingyue laughed even deeper. It's because I underestimated the little girl now. Her song is amazing. If it weren't for the first time I saw her, I would have thought she had learned from me for a long time. Lin Chuanyu was even more surprised and said, still a little girl. That's really amazing. Lin Qin also perked up his ears. How small can it be? Yeah, she said she'll come over at noon. Yan Tingyue nodded, if you're not busy, you can sit down and have a cup of tea. See you later. Lan Jie, Wen can sing and play the piano, and Wu can go to battle to kill enemies. Thank you to many babies for sending birthday wishes at midnight. They have aged another year and have been writing for 6 years. Thank you all for staying here. There are still many readers who have been following me since my first book, From Yunj to Lanjie. I hope you will still be here in the new year. PS, books are fictional and historical stories are also fictional. Please do not substitute them for reality. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Backing Mountains. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9. Backing Mountains. Being recognized as a descendant by Yan Tingyue is by no means an ordinary person. Lin Chuanyu was about to nod when Lin Qin stopped her and said, Mom, I still have to practice the piano later. Time is too tight. Lin Chuanyu felt a bit regretful upon hearing this and said, Sorry, Aunt Yan, Qin's coursework is too heavy, I'm afraid she won't have time. Then you should go back early, Yan Tingyue smiled. Practicing the piano is important. Lin Zhuangyu nodded and said, I won't disturb you anymore. Qin and I will go back first. The two of them went out, and Lin Qin continued walking the mountain road expressionlessly. Lin Chuanyu suddenly spoke up, when you were a child, your grandmother wanted you to learn Kunqu opera, it's a pity. Lin Qin asked indifferently, what's so regrettable about learning Kunqu that I can go to Yunjing and return to the Lin family? Lin Chuanyu was taken aback and said, of course not. The Lin family, after Tianyin Square, also wants to rebuild Tianyin Square. Tianyin Fang reveres the ancient Qin, followed by classical instruments such as pipa and Shenxiao. Each leader is also skilled at the ancient Qin. After the war, many scores and music techniques were lost. Over the years, the Yunjing Lin family has also tried every means to revive the Guqin, but the results have been minimal. Lin Qin said, that's it. I only learn things that are useful to me. The 7-string Guqin is the only way for her to return to the Lin family's original home. Only after returning to Yunjing did I have the opportunity to go to the global center. Lin Chuanyu pondered for a moment and said, well, you don't have that much energy either. Just focus on the Guqin. As the sun hung high and the sun rose 3 poles, night turned the tide and arrived at Yan Tingyue's cabin in the woods. Teacher. She knocked lightly on the door and saw the gift box on the tea table. Do you have any guests? The thing my old friend entrusted someone to deliver has already left. Yan Tingyue saw her and raised her hand to pour her a cup of tea. Alan, if it weren't for the fact that we only met yesterday, I would really suspect that I have been teaching you for decades. Yi Wanlan smiled slightly and said, I have a fate with my teacher. She has indeed studied Kunqu opera with Yan Tingyue for decades. Yan Tingyue taught her the 4 skills and 5 techniques of drama, and even took out decades-old treasured costumes to give to her. But the next day, they restarted and were strangers again. She could only keep looking for Yan Tingyue to continue her studies, but fortunately her memories would not be erased with the restart of time. The infinite cycle has ended, and this time, she can finally officially worship Yan Tingyue as her teacher. During the Qianhe period, Chu Sheng was born. She followed Ning Zhaozong to meet this music saint. Under his leadership, Kunqu opera has reached its peak. It is customary to hold music festivals in all parts of Ningqiao during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Now that Kunqu opera is declining, she is also trying every means to save it. You have the real ability and can withstand your temper, Yan Tingyue said. Sing the section of Peony Pavilion today. Night turned the tide and nodded in response. She walked into the courtyard behind the screen, closed her eyes, and slowly started singing. Originally, it was a colorful and vibrant flower blooming everywhere. The sound of the play sounded gentle and melodious. After singing a song, Yan Tingyue pointed out a few more places, and Wanlan took notes one by one before leaving. In May, the southern city was rainy, and it started to rain lightly outside. After a while, the rustling sound of wooden clogs stepping on the grass outside the door surprised Yan Tingyue. Who else will come at this time? She lifted the door curtain. The mist was hazy, and someone slowly walked over holding a 20.4 bone bamboo umbrella. Between the colors of rain and smoke, the young master is unparalleled. Even Yan Tingyue couldn't help but be shaken. She lived in seclusion before and met many descendants of aristocratic families, but none of them could match the person in front of her. Aunt Yan, I'm very sorry to bother you at this moment. Rongyu ran in from behind Yan Tingfeng, panting. I brought you some tea and sandalwood from Yunjing. This is my brother, you can call him Xiao Yan. Xiaoyu, Xiaoyan. Yan Tingyue was very happy inside again. It's a pity that you came late, otherwise you would still be able to see my disciple. Rongyu was taken aback and said, when did you have an apprentice? When he met Yan Tingyue, she was still serving as the vice president of the Yunjing Art Association. Many people begged to worship her as their teacher, including the Yunjinglan family, but they were all rejected. Yan Tingyue is the only descendant of Chu Sheng, with a naturally high status. The fact that Yan Tingyue has a descendant is enough to cause a sensation throughout China, and even the World Intangible Cultural Heritage Center will be shaken. Just yesterday. Yan Tingyue smiled, but don't believe it, she will definitely sing better than me in the future. I believe she can revitalize Kunqu opera. No, it is the entire intangible cultural heritage. Rongyu widened his eyes and said, who is it? How could Yan Tingyue make such an evaluation? Yan listened to the wind as if lost in thought. Yan Tingyue didn't say much. We will meet in the future, so don't tell anyone for now. Understood. Rongyu smiled and said, Aunt Yan, this is my grandfather's newly made tea. This fragrance is the latest model from the Su family, and I have brought it to you. Thank you, Xiaoyu. Yan Tingyue said, sit down. I'll have someone go fishing and have a meal together later. Rongyu obediently sat down, but his mind was still pondering what kind of divine disciple Yan Tingyue referred to as. He whispered to Yan Tingfeng, can you guess who it is? Yan Tingfeng took a slow sip of tea and said, I'm not interested. Rongyu muttered, I don't know what exactly interests you. Having known Yan Tingfeng for many years, he couldn't guess what the other person was thinking all day long. What a strange person. Returning to Jiangqing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wanlan bought some ink, rice paper, painting pigments, and carving knives from the shop outside the art academy. Turning the tide at night. A surprised voice sounded from behind. Wanlan turned around with a faint expression. It's really you, why are you still wandering around here at this time? Su Li frowned when he saw her, why don't you hurry to the hospital to take care of Qin Xian? Wanlan didn't look at him and continued on. Su Li saw her leave like this and quickly took 2 steps forward, saying, Qin Xian hasn't woken up yet. I heard it was you who hit it, haven't you been a little too far? Su Li, Zhou Hechen, and Qin Xian were also friends who played big together. Zhou Hechen often shares Yi Wanlan's begging essay as a joke in their small group, and he also knows how much Yi Wanlan licks Zhou Hechen. Who knew that Yi Wanlan suddenly went crazy? Alright, Yi Wanlan, listen to me. Go apologize to He Qing'a and then go to the hospital to take care of Qin Xian until he wakes up. Su Li advised again, take good care of yourself. Don't you think everything has been resolved? As for Sister Yunyi's side, her hand was not injured and she was a false alarm. She has always been kind and definitely won't be angry with you. Maybe she will help you. Knight turned a deaf ear to Lan. Su Li was completely angered and said, Yi Wanlan, if Brother He Qin gets angry and doesn't help you solve the problem, then the Qin family will take action and you will be finished. Yi Wanlan finally stopped and tilted her head slightly. Who told you? I have to rely on him. Su Li was taken aback for a moment and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Without Brother He Qin, who else can you rely on? In Jiangqing, without Zhou Hechen, who would know the name of Yi Wanlan? Lan Jie. Just kill it, Yan Gu. Nods, Rongyu. Please calm down, both of you. Thank you, babies, for your tips and monthly pass. See you tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Give 400,000 yuan first. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Give 400,000 yuan first, relying on a branch of the Lin family. Or relying on a top student from Jiangqing No. 1 middle school to give birth to a cousin. Or is it relying on such a despicable low-level trick of playing hard to get? In Jiangqing, the 5 major families are like heaven. If you offend one of them, where can Yi Wanlan go freely? Su Li only wanted to laugh at Yi Wanlan's naivety and said, Yi Wanlan, I've left my words here. I'll let you go or not, but I also advised you in advance. You can't bear the anger of the Qin family. All right. Yi Wanlan smiled, I'll wait, just come. She turned around and went to the coffee shop to buy fortified ice American. Su Li frowned. The most outrageous thing that Wanlan did the night before yesterday was just to make Zhou Hechen jealous, but in the end, it was definitely her who took the initiative to make peace. To say that Yi Wanlan really doesn't like Zhou Hechen anymore, Su Li doesn't believe it at all. The brothers all know how much she licks. As long as Sheng Yunyi is present, any means used to turn the tide at night will be of no use. Su Li shook his head and drove away. 20 minutes later, he arrived at the old house of the Zhou family. Today, Su Li was ordered by his father to deliver something to the Zhou family. The interests of the 5 major families in Jiangqing are highly intertwined, with some degree of kinship by marriage. The younger generations of these families also grew up together as childhood sweethearts. After Su Li handed over the things that his father had asked him to give to Zhou Butler, he went to find Zhou Hechen. Zhou Hechen was reading in the study when he nodded slightly and said, Ali. Brother He Qin, do you know who I ran into today? Su Li sneered, turn the tide at night, go shopping alone. Zhou Hechen's hand paused, and his eyes became somewhat gloomy. I saw her at the Academy of Fine Arts, and she bought a lot of things for painting, Su Li said again. Shouldn't it be that another road doesn't work, so I'm planning to learn how to draw with Yunyi to please you. Zhou Hechen finally spoke up and mocked, is it necessary? Who knows what she's thinking, Su Li shrugged. But Brother He Qin, you can't get used to her anymore. Even if she tries to make peace in this essay, you can't be soft-hearted. Zhou Hechen pressed his temples and slowly exhaled, feeling restless in his heart. He woke up at the bar this morning and felt very uncomfortable. As usual, he would send a message to Yi Wanlan and she would immediately come over to pick him up. Indulge oneself in pursuit of capture. Zhou Hechen's expression was cold and cold. Unfortunately, he used the wrong partner and disliked disobedient pets the most. Well, Zhou Hechen said indifferently, go tell the Qin family that I don't care about this matter. They can do whatever they want without considering me. Su Li nodded and said, "Don't worry, brother He-chen. I will definitely take your meaning with me." Zhou He-chen lit a cigarette. "The smoke curled up and blurred my face. Only by making Yi Wanlan suffer will she understand that only he can rely on in Jiangqing." At this moment, the Lin family. Lin Huijin and Su Peiqing went out for a spring outing early in the morning, while Lin Wenli was writing papers in seclusion at home. After placing a bag of candy at the door of Lin Wenli's bedroom, Yi Wanlan contacted Qingli and said, "Qingli, it's me. Do you have time tomorrow? Let's meet once." "Yeah. Lan Jie, I was just looking for you," Qingli said enthusiastically. "There's an intangible cultural heritage exhibition in Nanjing during the summer, and there's a shortage of models. I'm trying to win it for you. Don't worry, I won't let you lose your job." Yi Wanlan raised her eyebrows slightly and said, "No need, I'm asking you to be my general manager." "Lan Jie, it's not yet time to sleep and dream. Well, let's talk about it tomorrow." Night turned on the computer. Her computer is still an old model from 4 years ago and has been phased out in today's rapidly developing technology era. Yi Wanlan entered the trading platform and sold several of its stocks. A few minutes later, there were a few zeros in the bank card account. She knocked on the table and her eyes narrowed. If it weren't for the time-traveling woman stealing her body, she would have received hundreds of times more money. But why would her body be worn? Why is it just her? Is it a coincidence? Is it intentional? Or punishment? Yi Wanlan pressed her heart and slowly exhaled. Tonight, it's so long that it's seeping. One night passed without feeling satisfied, and the sun hung high again. At noon, Yi Wanlan arrived at the Imperial Hall. Qingli got off the bus, waved happily, and ran forward. "Lan Jie." Yi Wanlan handed her a cup of milk tea. "How do you know I like this taste?" Qingli was pleasantly surprised. "Lan Jie, what do you want from me?" "The company is short of people, I'm here to find someone," Yi Wanlan said. "She is our jewelry design director and cannot be absent." Qingli was stunned and said, "Which design director is here?" "My family, wait for me here." Yi Wanlan walked straight into the Imperial Court Club. The gatekeeper and waiter recognized this face and did not stop her, only thinking that she came to find Zhou He-chen. Yi Wanlan had just arrived at the elevator entrance when the door opened. A girl stumbled out and her clothes were torn apart. Yi Wanlan promptly supported her shoulder and said, "What's wrong?" The girl looked up in panic and met a pair of blue eyes that looked like the ocean. She said in a daze, They asked me to accompany the wine, but I didn't comply. Okay, come with me." Yi Wanlan grabbed her. A waiter frowned and stopped, "Miss Yi, you." Yi Wanlan glanced at him. "It is very peaceful and quiet, but it seems like there is a tremendous pressure covering it." The waiter's movements froze. "Lan Jie. Why did you come out so quickly?" Qingli was still drinking milk tea happily. "Where is our jewelry design director?" "Qingli, take Yixiang to the car." Yi Wanlan put on a pair of white gloves. "I'll go back as soon as I go." "Okay Lan, no problem." Qingli comforted the girl as she got into the car. "Don't be afraid, drink some hot water. Is it too cold to wear like this?" "Put on my coat." Zhou Yixiang was still stunned. How does the other party know her name? At this moment, inside the A11 private room. "Su Gu, that woman is missing, what a bad luck. The monk can run away, but not the temple." Su Lu didn't take it seriously. "This time it's her good luck, and next time it won't be so easy." Su Gu said that as long as she dares to appear, she will never run away. The background music was noisy, and several people in the private room were drinking in a state of confusion. Bang! The door was kicked open, and a large beam of light surged in. A figure stands against the light. The white clothes of the world, if the blade is unsheathed. Su Lu squinted his eyes, and when he saw the person coming, he was surprised and said, Yi Wanlan. Why, you didn't go find Zhou Hechen, but instead came to find me. The other few people were also somewhat surprised. The news that Qin Xian was beaten into the hospital by Yi Wanlan had already spread throughout the entire river area. It seems that after Zhou Hechen cut off your economy, you are so poor that you came to work here. It's okay, I'll give you a chance to make money today. Su Lu laughed, how about taking off a piece of clothing for 100,000 yuan? Someone said, Brother Su, why not? Yi Wanlan is ultimately Zhou Hechen's person. They humiliated her, isn't it just humiliating Zhou Hechen? Beating a dog also depends on the owner. What's going on? Su Lu sneered, she's a fake and has offended Qin Xian again. Will Zhou Hechen still support her? He has always been at odds with Zhou Hechen, and last month Zhou Hechen even snatched a big order from him. Unfortunately, his younger brother Su Li is a fool. He calls Zhou Hechen his brother every day, and he doesn't even know which day he will sell the Su family. Yi Wanlan remained calm all along, and suddenly she smiled. There was a moment of silence in the private room. Blaming Yi Wanlan for being greedy, cursing her for being vulgar, cursing her for having no temperament, but in front of her face, there really isn't anything insulting to say. Yi Wanlan took off her high heels, then took off her gloves and threw them all onto Su Lu's face. Give me 400,000 first. Lan Jie is crazy beyond your imagination. You can also vote for monthly tickets during the free period. Today's Q reading and starting point double monthly tickets. On the last day, babies with monthly tickets can vote for Lan Jie. See you tomorrow, end of this chapter.